If you were to start an account today on Skylight Social, and let's say you have 1,000 followers on Blue Sky, right? If you were to start it on Skylight Social, you don't start with 0 followers. You start with the exact number of followers you have on Blue Sky. Now, this is because of a few factors, and one of them is AT protocol. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Modern Web Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts today. My name is Danny Thompson. I'm the Director of Technology at a company called This.Labs. Today is a very interesting episode. I am joined with one of my coworkers, an amazing React Native developer, Brandon Mathis. We've done live streams before if you've caught them. We're probably going to do some more real soon on some more React Native items. So if you haven't checked that out, check out the Dis.media YouTube channel and I guess my LinkedIn, if you can sort through the array of vast majority of posts that I have. But today is a very different episode. We are kind of bringing on somebody who, number one, obviously they know what they're doing, but number two, it's a very different story than the average one that we bring onto the podcast. So it's going to be a lot of technical discussion for sure, but I think also there's going to be a different aspect altogether of like, how do you scale and build an application that potentially millions of people are going to be utilizing on a regular basis and competing with a top competitor, right? So let's kind of dig into this. Today, my guest, Reed. Reed, I guess why don't you introduce yourself and I'll kind of jump into it.
I'm Reed Harmeyer, the CTO of Skylight, and we've been working on Skylight for a few months, basically since TikTok got banned in January. And I'd say my background is in kind of the developer experience world and with React, and that's where I worked for like 7 years. But then when the TikTok ban was happening, me and my co-founder Tori were kind of like, it would be a shame to lose this like social network that we both really enjoyed, and she was even a creator on, and that people were really sad to see go. And what if we could just kind of create another place where it could live, even if like TikTok, the app itself, died, the social network could survive. And that was kind of how we got wrapped into this, into Skylight.
And so Reed, for those that don't know, Reed and his team have built Skylight Social, which is a competitor to TikTok. It's grown tremendously. At one point, being the number 5 app in the entire app store and being the number 1 app in all of entertainment. Hundreds of thousands of downloads since then. The platform has grown tremendously. Short period of time, mind you. I think as of the recording this, it's only been out like 2-3 weeks. So at least to the mass public. And just seeing this kind of progressive growth, I think is very incredible. And when I explain it to people, it kind of blows their mind because it seems like they've never thought about a social media-like app in this sense. Meaning, if you were to start an account today on Skylight Social, and let's say you have 1,000 followers on Blue Sky, right? If you were to start it on Skylight Social, you don't start with 0 followers. You start with the exact number of followers you have on Blue Sky. Now, this is because of a few factors, and one of them is AT protocol. And so, assuming for the average listener, they may not necessarily be familiar with what this is, can you kind of give an overview of what the AT protocol is, but then explaining why you decided to build your platform on top of it?
Yeah. So for any social media app that you use, like we could just take like Facebook, for example, like you have the app and then you have the social network. People have accounts in the social network, they follow each other or are friends with each other, they make posts onto that network. But that network and the app are not always like one and the same. For instance, like you can use your Facebook account on Instagram, and Instagram posts can show up on Facebook, and you get this like this social network that spans multiple apps. Well, with the app protocol, the social network is an open social network. Anybody can build an app off of it. And Blue Sky is the first app that they built the protocol, and they built an app that's essentially like the proof of concept for the protocol. But there's a bunch of small apps like that have been built, and some of them are little kind of like funny toy apps. Somebody made one that basically updates a counter every time they flush their toilet. And so you could kind of do anything on this app protocol and contribute in these interesting ways. And so when we built Skylight, when we were thinking about like how do you want to build like the next short form video app, it was obvious to me at least that like it should be built on that protocol, because you could take advantage of the fact that like there are already like probably over 1 million videos on the app protocol posted to Blue Sky. So those are videos that show up when people log into your app. The first person who logs into your app sees a video that has 4,000 likes. This place isn't empty. This is like an actual like social network. And when you leave, if you leave a comment, somebody might comment back. But they wrote their comment on Blue Sky and you wrote yours on Skylight. And I just thought that was a really cool idea even before the TikTok ban. I was kind of playing around with it. But it was like obvious that that was a great way to get started, like to kind of bootstrap a social media app, which is probably the hardest part of building a social media app is the bootstrapping. And that it also had like this long-term potential because like, as you said, like as a creator, like somebody might find you because they saw your video on Skylight, but then they can follow you on Blue Sky. Like you don't lose the people when you leave the platform. One of the problems that we had during the TikTok ban was we had gotten people really excited by showing them an early version of Skylight, and they followed us on TikTok. But we were like, can you also follow us on Blue Sky? Because if TikTok gets banned, then you'll have lost this connection. And we didn't get nearly as many people following us on Blue Sky. It's simply like too much friction to like go download this other app, create an account just to follow us. And that's not a problem at all in the app protocol. And that's just a huge benefit for creators. It's pretty much a benefit for the users too.
So one question that I have here, when you think of platforms like TikTok to me at least, and you know, transparency for those that aren't familiar, like I am a quote unquote content creator in the grand scheme that like I do make a lot of content. I dabble in a lot of content creation, whether it's technical education or explaining concepts in a way that people can comprehend, right? But because of that, I get to use the entirety of the ecosystem. So when I think of TikTok, I don't just think of a place that shows videos. What I am thinking about is they have a great way where I can edit my things on the fly. Like we were in New York and I was doing a video talking about the conference that I was going to, and in an Uber ride, I was able to completely edit the video, push it out, get it out there. But the other thing that I think about, and I often don't think about just the video serving capabilities of TikTok, of it having videos, but it's the distribution, meaning the algorithms that it is that they've placed in order for me to get the kind of content that I want to nurture, observe, view, and go off of. What are the things that you're thinking about in this realm to make it an entire platform experience versus just another place that has videos? Because, God, there's so many, right? Like, what's the differentiator here that's like, wow, I need to be a part of this?
Yeah, I think that one of the areas that we really thought that TikTok did well was the fact that people could get served very different videos, and not from people that they followed, but from new people that they had, that the algorithm could just figure out that like, hey, you might like this kind of content. It's probably the best discovery engine of any of these social media apps. And that's also something that on that protocol we feel like is something that we could offer. I think it goes well with short form video in general, to be this kind of like content discovery like experience. And so when we thought about, so in some ways we think about what does TikTok like not do well and that we can try to do better. And in some ways it's like, what does the app protocol need from this app so that we could get this kind of complementary benefits? And we think that like Blue Sky is very much like following in the Twitter mold. And so you see posts from people that you follow, but like, how do you find somebody to follow in the first place is a much trickier thing. And I think that that's kind of where Skylight comes in. It's not so much about who you follow. It's much more about what kind of content you like to watch. And in the process, you could find those people to follow. And then when you go to Blue Sky, you're already following them.
So, I mean, but what considerations are you making perhaps like algorithmically? Like is there something that you've pinpointed where you're like, oh wow, like if this was more or this was less, this would lead to something that's, I guess, a better experience overall for the user. But then on top of that, like what technical considerations are you making as we grow? Because, you know, growth is going to happen. There's going to be growing pain points. I think every platform in the world ends up maturing and going through it because there's only so much that you know until it's like real. And now you're like, wow, I didn't consider this load balancing thing the way that I needed to, and so I need to kind of consider it that way. I think you're an interesting case because a lot of your growth, I mean, it's hyper growth in a very short period of time, right? It's some people's dream, but at the same time, a lot of founders' nightmare to kind of navigate and go through, especially on their own as they're trying to figure that out. So what does that look like for you right now?
Yeah, so I think that both those parts are kind of related. So the first part was about like kind of what data do we use to like figure out what videos to show people. And the answer is mostly like the most valuable data that we've found is like, do you actually watch the video? Like data ended up being kind of like hit or miss. Like people would like a video and then scroll, or they'd watch a video and then not like it. And we can use like data to say, oh, you want to see more videos like this, but it's not a good indication that somebody else is going to want to see a video like this. And so the quality of the video is best captured by whether or not people actually watch it, or at least with the kind of like limited data that we're currently collecting. Did people watch most of the video? Like if it was a 30-second long video, did they watch at least 20 seconds of it? Because if they did, they actually were enjoying themselves and not just kind of liking it in a way that was maybe like because they just agree with it. Some people will see a post, they'll like it because they agree with it, and they'll scroll. And that's not necessarily a good indicator that we should show it to somebody else. So that said, that means all of these videos that you watch, these are all pieces of data that have to go through and be kind of like aggregated and put into a machine learning model. And that was one of the things that we really struggled with when we launched, because our services for this worked like fine when it was in beta, and then we launch and we get like 100,000 users in like 2 days, and like suddenly the services that were working are no longer working, and we're struggling to actually show people the recommended videos that we wanted to calculate for them.
So, you know, we are privy to certain information because for those that don't know, This.Labs has had the amazing opportunity to help support and work with your team to kind of build this out and kind of scale this from the beginning. And so I know that we're using React Native for a lot of this. And so I guess my question to you, when you thought about this and you're making considerations, why React Native? What was like, I mean, why go that route instead of going native development, like, Android and Swift or something along those lines? Like, what was the consideration and move for that?
Well, I've been a React Native developer since 2017, and I got into React Native because I thought, like, I saw this video from Leland Richardson in 2017 at Chain React, where he kind of explained how React was just this general abstraction over any kind of platform. That like underneath the hood, there's actual native views being used, but they're just abstracted away by React's programming model. And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and that I wanted to be part of it, and I wanted to figure out how to make it better. And that's why I spent so much time kind of in the DevX realm, was trying to figure out how to make React and React Native like more efficient. But the people who have really been making React Native more efficient have been Expo. There's a lot of like configuration that you'd have to do if you just use React Native kind of manually, that Expo gives you out of the box. They create all these dev tools to allow you to test things easily and to deploy even like server code now. So we have like a good amount of server code and web code in the same code base that our iOS and Android code is in. But like our app is still pretty performant. Like TikTok's got the scroll, but so do we. Like ours is maybe not quite as snappy as TikTok's, but it's like but it's actually pretty comparable. And I was able to get that scroll in like a day. And like that would have been a huge effort to try to do in both iOS and Android. But we were able to get something that was like a passable version of a video playing app in 2 days because we used Expo.
I mean, I'd like to add, and Danny, I mean, this might help you, but like, I mean, Expo, its tooling provides this mechanism for speed to market that is, I mean, this is personally not my first rodeo building a social media application. And social media applications have this like really unique problem where users get on your application and complain about your application. And they want to see those problems fixed tomorrow, not by time you make a code modification and then you make a new iOS build and you submit it to the iOS App Store and so on and so forth. Expo provides tooling where we can get quality features shipped out to our users right away without them having to wait. And they feel like they're an active part of the development process. And that creates this feedback loop and they give you more feedback. And then Reed has even gotten into, he's sent me DM conversations that he's had with users that where they explain in detail how they ran into some problem. And for like an engineer, that's really, really valuable because I can't just log into someone else's account and see what their experience is like if they're experiencing a bug. So having Expo there and available with things like Expo updates to get out there really quickly has been, I think, huge for the growth of Skylight personally. So.
Well, let me ask you both this then, because one question that naturally comes to mind here is, at what point do you go from this is a request for a feature versus there's nothing really super of merit here? Like, how are you defining and ideating, like, this is where we dedicate our time based on the feedback?
Yeah, I would say that one of the big ones is like kind of how many people it affects, honestly. Like at the stage that we're at and with like how few people are working on this, there are plenty of things that are worth dedicating time to, and we can't do all of them, so we just kind of do the most common ones. And also that there is this kind of core user experience, which is like everybody has to sign in. Basically, everybody watches videos, and you really need to be able to upload videos so that good videos are still in the system, and that those things really kind of have to take priority, because if they're not working, then the rest of the stuff doesn't get used. So if there's a bug on the search page, it gets pushed down the priority list, because it's like you kind of don't have to use search to use the app, but you do have to be able to watch a video.
And I guess one question that I've had from a technical consideration is, and I've thought about this, and my natural assumption is there's some level of prefetching happening in the background in order to make sure like the next video served up is like snappy and smooth. Is that happening? And if it is happening, like how deep is that happening to? Like, are you prefetching 10 videos at a time with their comments and et cetera, et cetera? Or like, how do you know that through that prefetch someone's not switching tabs or options or something like at what point do you say like this is too much to prefetch or this is just the right amount?
We actually just prefetch a lot in the background. We just try to make it not blocking. And so it's a system where there's there's like 4 queues of different priorities, and videos get like brought in from like 5 different sources and then put into those queues. And then as it needs like 2 more videos ahead is like how much we actually commit. That's when we commit to a video. And then we just pick from whichever queue based off of like a kind of logic to make sure that each of them get hit some of the time. Yeah, like it's a lot of actually pretty manual, like hard-coded logic right now. That's to try to just enforce variety, and variety of sources, because it's something like if you follow somebody, that should matter, and we can get the list of videos that you follow, but we don't want it to be every video posted from everybody that you follow all in a row, and then like algorithmically recommended videos, and then just broadly popular videos. We want them like interspersed, and we want. Yeah, I guess that's actually all it is. We want it interspersed.
I think that's good. When you look at like the broader roadmap of things that you're trying to achieve, build, like this time, I guess next year, like if you were to have like a very big win within that time period, what does that even look like to you at this stage?
There's a lot that we'd want to build. I think in the short term, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to give people the ability to control their own feed more without making it, like I've seen that TikTok has introduced this kind of like slider feature. We're thinking more like a dislike feature where you could be like, this isn't my kind of content. And so you can quickly kind of get up to a similar experience that maybe you were getting with TikTok by just eliminating things, like just telling us straight up, hey, like, I really don't like the dancing videos. Like, just don't show me any dancing videos. Then we don't have to try to infer that. And that just improves the core user experience again. I think in addition to that, things like lives, which we're trying to get to in the next couple months, are going to be really big. They're really big on TikTok already. And I think it's also one of those things, again, where app protocol doesn't really have it. Like, it's not part of Blue Sky. And that makes it very, like, it means we're expanding the overall network. Mm-hmm. Like, you can watch a video on Blue Sky, but you can't watch a live video, like a live stream. So I think that that's an interesting area. And then, yeah, there's tons of stuff around lives or different variants of lives that we've talked about that we think is really worth exploring. And I guess I would say that having this base of like the core short form video app is a nice way to be able to make features work that wouldn't have worked otherwise. Like, it would be tough to start a new live platform because what if nobody's live? But like when we have a short form video platform, it's like, oh, there are videos here, like you're able to watch them, and then a live comes up, and then you could be like, oh, I actually do want to go in live, and you don't feel like you're in the wrong place, I guess, as a user.
All right. Well, before we get back to the conversation, I need to give a shout out to our sponsors today, This.Labs. This episode is brought to you by This.Labs, the experts in modern web development and consulting. If you're looking to scale up your development teams efficiently or need assistance in turning your innovative ideas into reality with robust proofs of concepts, This.Labs has you covered. This.Labs doesn't just build software, they build partnerships. They collaborate closely with your team to understand your unique challenges and craft tailored solutions that drive real results. Join the many companies that have accelerated their growth and innovation with the help of This.Labs. Visit this.co to discover how they can help you take your projects to the next level. Thank you to This.Labs for sponsoring this episode and for supporting the developer community. And now back to the episode.
Okay.
So one of the things that you have with the app is not just the app itself, but it's the in-app video editor. And so this is kind of like, what I've talked about when I think of other competitors, like as a whole, they have the entire ecosystem. I guess what is this playing overall into like the grand scheme of things? And what are like some of the considerations and ideas that you have around it?
Yeah, so I think that when we thought of the in-app video editor, it was, man, this is something that like the app protocol could really use, because right now you could only upload an MP4 to Blue Sky. And at first that was the only way to upload videos into Skylight too. But TikTok has a great video editor, and it really just reduces the friction of posting videos, and having good videos posted is just really important to the whole user experience. And so when we thought about it, we were like, we don't, like, I personally wouldn't really have time to implement this. And so that was like really the motivation behind bringing in This.Labs, was like, we really want this video editor. And we think that it's a game changer for our platform. And so I'll let Brandon talk about it, because he's largely responsible for it becoming a reality.
I mean, I was pumped, honestly, when I kind of saw the ask, because there was a lot there. We needed to be able to shoot video. We needed to be able to point and shoot videos. We need to be able to rearrange the clips, delete ones out, provide voiceovers, do AI generated captions. I mean, there's green screen overlay. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, the feature set of the TikTok editor is really, really wide. So we evaluated a few different choices, and through just partner discussions with the team over at Skylight, we landed on a vendor that provided an SDK that was written in Kotlin and Swift. So we knew it was ready for mobile development, but we were kind of unsure how it would all drop into a React Native environment. But by using the Expo Modules API, we were able to first start by attacking the iOS system first. This is kind of the world where hybrid application development splits, and now you have to develop code bases for two different applications. But thankfully, we're only working around a single feature and not around an entire system. So we were able to essentially modularize the entire wrapper around this SDK that we decided to utilize as the video editor to first roll out an option for the iOS users. And I definitely shared really strongly with Reed and Tori's vision that we didn't just want to be a big vacuum cleaner over top of the AT protocol, slurping up all the content and redisplaying it. We wanted to contribute something to the AT protocol and contribute content, and also a different format of content, which that video editor is allowing users to do. It's a little early, I would say still. I have a grand vision for the video editor to be, you wouldn't have to jump out into CapCut to do anything, but we're still working it. But the experience, I would have to say, Reed, you'll say shout out to me. I'll say shout out to Expo, because I had not written a single line of Swift code since 2017, and I had never written Kotlin code before. But through just some great documentation, a little help from some AI agents, and that Expo Modules API, we were able to get a video editor. I think it ended up, I remember, Reed, I told you this was going to take me 2 months to even like get an initial prototype out, right? And I think we got it out instead. We were looking at a prototype in maybe 2 weeks, and we kind of went live really in like 3.5 weeks maybe. So the user base was crazy excited. But now the excitement has gone over and we're getting a lot of feedback. So we're like iterating on that feedback and working really hard to make it pretty top quality. So it was fun.
I mean, if it wasn't for like being able to do it so quickly, we wouldn't have had it for the kind of time that we launched. And we had the kind of launch at that time because we ran out of space in our iOS beta, and like there was the question of like, is TikTok about to get banned or is it about to get sold? It ended up getting extended, but that was like really a good time for us to at least open up this beta to like everybody by putting it on the App Store, and having the video editor, I think really brought it all together. Like without the video editor, I don't know that we would have got anywhere near as much traction.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I was one of them when TikTok got banned. I was like, well, you know, it sucks. Not the first platform in the world, not the last. But let me go ahead and edit this video real fast that I'm going to throw on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, I can't edit my video because the CapCut that I've been paying for to have all these premium features is gone, even though I paid for the year. And I'm like, what happens to my cash now that I paid for this whole thing and now it's gone? This really came in mind. Actually, this has nothing to do with us having to do anything with Skylight. But as soon as it came back, I canceled my plan because I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get my money back out of this. But it makes me think like one of the biggest things though is, at least when I conceptually think of CapCut, it's like there's a lot of architecting that happens around it. You know, it does a robust number of features. So I guess. And asking this to, I guess, both of y'all, with heavy emphasis maybe to Brandon, based on what we've said so far, like when architecting this app and the editor, like what considerations have you made around like the data structures or client-side processing pipelines, and like what are you employing to allow like non-blocking editing without, because you're not using native modules or anything native at all, if we're being honest. So like, how are you even optimizing for like memory usage on the device?
Yeah, you know, this was a discussion that we kind of had early on, and really like guided the decision around the SDK that we wanted to use. I mean, Reed and I floated some ideas about doing video processing in the cloud. You know, we thought about like, can we create some kind of abstraction layer where you are looking at clips and you're reorganizing them and the whole user interface is there, but you're essentially building up this big metadata object where you're going to say video 1, clip at this point, start at that point, so on and so forth in the order that you want to attach them. And we just knew really that the turnaround time was going to be atrocious. You know, what happens if something breaks in flight? You know, I kind of really want to see it now. People's relationship with their phone is pretty intimate, and they expect immediate responses, not grand, long, oh, please wait 5 minutes while we process this video thing. So all the processing for the video editor happens on device. Architecturally, it works the same way. It does essentially build up a giant metadata object that's going to inform how long certain clips are and the order that they're going to be in and other aspects of stuff that needs to overlay on top. And then under the covers, it does utilize a lot of the built-in iOS SDKs that are needed to snap these videos together. But we kind of have to deal with the added challenge also of like multiple different file formats. We allow people to import any type of video format they want directly off their library. So the SDK that we selected, which is kind of like an additional abstraction layer on top of what already is something that's provided by iOS and Android out of the box, so that, you know, it's like, hey, if this is a .mov file, make sure you do this first, or if this is a WAV file thing, do that. So a lot of the export step, which is kind of like the secondary step after you define what, like, you know, the structure of this video is going to be, is a pretty heavy piece of the SDK that we utilize, which helps us with all these different media formats that we have to handle. So I would say, for the most part, like, it's not a lot of like, oh, I architected this grand video editor, because that's a whole discipline in and of itself. We're really utilizing a library that has a high level of functionality, and a pretty expansive documentation set, and some undocumented features that you just got to use the debugger to go find out about, to get, I mean, the experience nailed in to what we think our users want, which is they want to drag those videos around, click the next button, and it's export, and just a little bar fills up, and all of a sudden they have their video now, and they can save it to their camera roll or pick it up in draft later if they want to make future changes. And don't even get me started on drafts. We had that working, and I feel like if you are going to make a video editor and you don't have drafts, you're doing it wrong. We need to have drafts. We have to make corrections. So, yeah.
I think I pretty much captured it. I could add that it was very much is somebody close enough to what TikTok offers that, like, it's reasonable to expect a user to use this? Mm-hmm. Because if every SDK out there was like so wildly different that, like, we'd be providing a bad experience, we just figured that we'd either write a new one or not provide an experience at all. It's not like video editor apps don't exist, but the upside of, like, having something good in the app was, like, pretty meaningful. And so we ended up being able to find one.
Yeah, I remember, Reed, we were eager to get to market, man. You know, we were like, we could take on the challenge to build a lot of this ourselves, but is that a challenge we need to address right now? You know, is there something that we can give the users that's going to give them a ton of value? And, you know, I think we pulled that off.
I also think that's kind of emblematic of, like, the approach that we took in general, which was like, hey, we don't have a lot of time. Like,
right.
We need to back into, like, everything that we do. So everything's a rough draft version of probably what we want it to be. But in the process, it's actually like a complete app. And just in time, basically, we were able to, like, get this app, like, to where it had kind of the set of features a user would expect a short-form video app to have.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the show today. Number one, you can find Reed and Skylight Social at the links in the description. We'll have them there. But, of course, Reed, is there anywhere that you would want people to find you on?
Find me on Blue Sky. If you're not on Blue Sky yet, join. It's the future.
I'll put some there. And you can always find me at D Thompson Dev everywhere else. Brandon Mathis, you can find him at Brandon Mathis on LinkedIn. And of course, if there's any additional links, you'll always find them in the show notes. And so thank you all so much for hanging out with us. And I'd like to thank This.Labs one last time, the trusted experts in modern web development and consulting. In today's fast-paced tech world, scaling your development teams and bringing innovative ideas to life can be challenging. That's where This.Labs came in. We specialize in amplifying your technical capabilities, whether it's expanding your dev team with seasoned professionals or streamlining your project's journey from ideation to deployment. Our approach is personalized and collaborative. We take the time to understand your unique business needs and craft tailored solutions that not only meet but exceed your expectations. With a proven track record of driving innovation and delivering results, we empower businesses to stay ahead of the curve and maximize their ROI. Visit this.co to discover how This.Labs can help transform your vision into reality. Big thank you to This.Labs. All right, y'all. See you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.